This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to what can only be described as a fairly foul morning in the Lowveld here of South Africa. We're looking at some of the first flowers of the new season, and this is your African live bush safari. So those are some of the first knobthorn flowers of the season, and their beautiful, subtle, honey-like scent is permeating the atmosphere. Well, it is when there isn't a howling gale blowing out of the southeast. As I was afraid of yesterday, the wind portended a miserable cold front today. But, you know, we take the good with the bad out here because it's mostly good. My name is James Henry. On camera today, making his debut with me, and I making my debut with him, is Theodore. There is Theodore's thumb. This is a very fine thumb so far as I'm aware, and it's very nice to be working with you, Theodore. Alright, our plan today is to head off towards the eastern side of the reserve and see if we can find where Thandi the leopardess and her bebe cub were yesterday evening. Lauren is probably going to do the same. She'll come in from the south and we'll knock about and see if we can find Thandi there. Please talk to us using the hashtag WildEarth on the tweet. Alternatively, the chat stream on YouTube or Twitch will work. And if you're a youngster, you can send us an email on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Here are our first mammals of the day, hopefully not our only ones. Some impala. Yes, James, it is wonderful to see flowers already, and I'm slightly, concerned that they are so early. I don't know if they came this early last year, but I have a feeling that last year and this year they were earlier than the previous years. And in fact, even before August had come, there were some trees that had flowers on them already, and that just seems like it's not right. You know, July is the middle of winter here, but maybe it's always been like that and I just haven't picked it up. And because we associate flowers with springtime, my thought has been that it's normally been around September, but there are definitely a lot of knobthorns already that are in flower. Not sure why it should make me concerned. The only reason it would make me concerned was if there was some sort of, I guess, climate change factor causing the flowers to come earlier than normal. You can see the poor little impalas are A, concerned about moving into the thickets, and B, they've got all their fur ruffled up to try and stay warm. And I don't know why I find this amusing, it's very childish, but the fact that their hair standing up like that is called piloerection is, I'm not sure why you'd say that. I'm not sure where the term comes from, why their hair standing up is called piloerection, but there it is. Vic, you say you saw a weaver making a nest already yesterday. Yeah, I saw one. Where was it? I saw a young weaver starting to make a nest as well about a week ago, and that really didn't make sense. That made me feel very sort of uncomfortable. It was in Johannesburg, my good wife is telling me. And it's not like it's been a very warm winter. I mean, it was pretty normally cold winter. But yeah, a weaver starting to build by the end of July. Bizarre. Right, we're off towards the east and hopefully we'll have some results.
Good morning and welcome to and beyond Ngala, where this morning we found some zebra, the relatively large herd of impala, and they're standing right on the edge of a clearing near the very same riverbed we started out following the lions yesterday. And this morning we thought we'd start here, or start to look here, because we suspected that that green tree line right behind the zebra and the impala, we think that that's where the young lioness of the Birmingham Pride have left her 2 cubs. But I am Yapi, and behind the camera we have Owen, and you are welcome to join us this morning on our live safari. Now you can see zebras and the impalas are all moving together. As soon as that group of impalas moving off over to the right, the zebra will probably follow not long from now. Ooh. Some alarm calls going. You can see they got a little bit of a fright. Now with this wind, the conditions are very windy this morning. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the animals like the zebra, the impala, they're going to be a little bit nervous this morning. You can see one looking around. With this heavy wind, it will be very difficult to hear any predator nearby. And the predators technically have a little bit of an advantage over them in conditions like this. So I think from here we're going to continue and go and see if we might find any signs of the lions this morning.
Good morning everybody and welcome to Ambient Pinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Jared. We've got Marcel behind the camera. Look what we managed to find. I absolutely love it when a plan comes together. We went out and we wanted to look for the 2 lionesses, their 5 youngsters, and we find them within 3 minutes of the lodge, which is absolutely fantastic. So we were just discussing wind and how predators use it to their advantage, and at the moment these lions are walking directly into the wind. Now although yesterday they fed on a warthog, I was having a look at all of their bellies and it looks like they've already digested quite a bit of that warthog. They did show some interest in impalas earlier, so I think that they are walking directly into the wind, hoping that there might be some impalas, zebra, warthogs up ahead. This is the time of morning when warthogs do start to wake up. It is a bit of a chilly and cold morning, so you often find then warthogs wake up a little bit later. But I think that's why they're heading in the direction they're heading in. Black Widow, I couldn't agree more. What a great start to the morning. And like I said, within 2 minutes or 3 minutes from the lodge, we managed to find these lions. And they're very, very active. Look at the cubs on the right, busy playing. They're going to tackle each other. There we go. Oh, take down. Awesome. Oh, these are one of my favorite ages for the cubs, is when they're so inquisitive, they're so playful. You could see the one cub, there's a vehicle to the right, and the cub wanted to stalk the vehicle, and then its sibling came and ran and decided to intercept instead. But we're going to maybe get some more play here. One of the advantages of when the lions or any animals walking the road, we always get great views, unobstructed grass and branches. I'd imagine that it could be quite sore though when they tackle each other on those stony roads that we have here in the southern parts of Pinda. Oh, there they run off to the left. So one of the reasons I think why they've walked this way Megan, yeah, I wish I had this kind of energy, and it's, what's it now, only just past 6:30, so to have that much energy at this time of the day is quite impressive. So I know at the moment they're all behind a bush. I don't want to move because one of the reasons is this area where we are, the signal's not so great. Whenever we move, we kind of drop off a bit. So we're just going to sit here in this exact spot for a bit, and hopefully those youngsters come out from behind the bush. You can see that the mothers at the moment have stopped in the road, and I think they're just giving themselves an opportunity to listen and smell. There's a very strong breeze coming up from up ahead. There is a water hole to the left, tiny little water hole that does have some water, and maybe they're hoping that something could be heading towards that water hole now. The problem is, with them walking in the road, they're quite exposed. So if they are to hunt, they're actually going to have to veer off the road for just a little bit. Otherwise, they're going to be seen by anything up ahead. Shemzi the bunny, it actually depends often from mother to mother. On average, it's about 3-4 months. I've seen a female suckle her cubs up to about 8 months before, which is really, really long. But yeah, on average, it's about 3-4 months, sometimes up to 6 months. 8 months is quite an extreme situation. But at this age, Shemzi, I don't know if you saw yesterday, but the cubs are already eating meat. So these cubs are about 4 or 5 months. We have actually still seen them suckling. I saw one of the cubs suckling yesterday. And you can still see on the mothers, I'm not sure if we'll be able to see from here, but they are still lactating. And you can see suckle marks, but they're not going to be suckling as regular as when they were 1 to 2 months. Because generally they would be introduced to meat at about 2 months. And during that period of time when they start to get introduced to meat, you'll find that the mother will slowly start to suckle them less, so wean them off.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You've caught us going up a hill, which I need to pay attention for. There we go. It's a very dreary, horrible morning here in Juma. But my name is Lauren. I have BK on camera today. He is back with us. It's wonderful to have him here. And yet I have found no signs of life, but I'm looking very, very hard. The wind is howling. We lost electricity last night, so we all got ready this morning with our torches. We boiled water over the stove. Can you believe it? The kettle did not work. Go back to the dark ages. No, I'm only teasing. So it's been an interesting morning. Hyena den's not active. I'm beginning to wonder if they've moved. It was getting to that time where the hyenas probably would move anyway due to parasite load. And of course Mowati went by, the mating lions went by. I think there's a chance they might have moved. So as I go round the reserve, I will of course check all the other dens that we know of. I could be wrong, they might not have, but I have been visiting about 3 times every single drive and no one's there. So I'm also going to assist James in searching for Tandy.
We were looking at a batelier there. We stopped here to see if it wasn't going to land, because I think in this vicinity, there it is, it's just flying off to the... No, that's a mark on my screen. Never mind. Tandy was walking down into this area yesterday with her cub, and it's possible that she's come down here because there's a kill, and I wondered if that batelier wasn't going to give us some sort of indication as to where there was a bit of meat sitting about. Anyway, let's continue driving along here. I would like to find this leopard in a nice thicket where there is a beautiful, I suppose, gap through which we can see Tandy and her cub, and there is shelter from this driving wind. I suppose there's no harm in checking the old den site. You know, I'm not sure why they would be there unless she happened to kill something in the old den site. Let's just put our noses in there and see. It's a nice riverbed area, this, where there are some big trees. She could stash herself a kill, or just take shelter from the foul wind. So for those of you who don't know, this is where we first saw this. Is this where we first saw this cub? Yes, it is. This is where we first saw this cub. And then they went off to Torchwood. And this is where we first saw Tlalamba as well, isn't it? No, this is not where we first saw Tlalamba. And in fact, this is where Tundi herself was first seen. Oh, the elephants have made a mess in here.
Oh my goodness, we're picking up an entire skull. Well, that just shows you the strength of this hyena here. I haven't managed to ID it yet, but I will. And this is the old buffalo carcass that the Nkahomas had last week. I'm sorry, it's not even really a carcass, it's just a skull. There cannot be anything left on this. We've got Impala watching away off in the distance, looking very, very loud. Look at that over here. They have an alarm called, though. But they're not happy. I cannot believe this hyena is trying to attempt this. Beaky, I'm just going to roll. No, I'm not going to roll forward. There's a notch missing out of that right here. Who are you, hyena? Reveal yourself. The smell is delightful. Rotten flesh and bones. Hyena's just trying to get whatever it can. It must be hungry. Oh, yummy. And of course, hyenas can crush through bones. That's how powerful their bite is. I don't imagine this one's going to eat the horn or the boss. But we're obviously attempting to get any little scrap of meat that remains inside the skull. Jackie, that is a great question, and I am asking it myself. I do not know. We have been past the skull maybe 50 times since last week between the two of us, and I really don't think much. It's maybe just a smell. If this hyena's hungry, the smell is probably drawing it to the skull. I don't think there can be much left, really, Jackie. Shall we roll forward a tiny little bit? Let's try and roll. What are you eating? You've got an injury on your nose. What happened to your nose? Oh. Are you enjoying the smell, Beaky?
I missed it.
It's delightful. It's gnawing on the bone there, you see that? You can hear it crunching. I don't know if this is heart. I think this is heart. You see that interesting sort of spot pattern right on the belly there? I think this is heart. I wonder if we can get a look at the underbelly, see if there's any prominent nipples. Doesn't appear to be so. No. Heart's a confusing one in the clan. She's believed to be, if this is her, if I'm correct, listen to that. She's believed to be very close to Ribbon and Intima, which puts her in a good position. I estimate that she's third in the clan, so it's Ribbon, Intima, then Heart. But she's 5 years old and not had a litter that we are aware of, which is very strange. Chris Rogue, thank you so much. Yes, it's Heart. I haven't seen Heart in quite a while. So why is it that we have not seen a litter from Heart at that age? This is quite baffling. Hyenas are reproductively ready around 3 years old. We thought for a while Hart might have been pregnant, but she could have also just been very, very full. I really didn't think anyone was going to come back to this skull and attempt to eat it. I'm very surprised. Making me hungry sitting here. I'm going to watch this hyena for a little bit longer, and then we are going to continue searching for the queen.
So it's quite interesting. I don't know what's going on. These females have been very indecisive. They've changed direction 4 times now in the last 15 minutes. I'm just going to keep quiet. Let's see if we can hear this female in the front's busy contact calling. So what they're busy doing is they're doing what we call a contact call. That's my version, that's not them. I'm not sure if you can hear it though, but they're walking straight south, and then the female turned around and they started walking north and started to contact call the rest of the pride. So this pride does consist of 4 adult females. We do only have 2 adult females here, and 2 so we didn't, but the rest of the pride busy contact calling. I don't see anything behind us. There's quite a lot of impala where these lines are now walking to, which Jamie 13. They probably only need to feed about once or twice a week. It does depend on what they catch, and in lions they might like to catch. What we see on Pinda is that our lions prefer to take, impala, zebra, and warthogs. And so if they catch something small, they're going to have to eat maybe times a week. But if they're able to catch a big buffalo,
so on our way towards the last area we had the lions yesterday, we came across this hyena. It looks like a relatively young hyena on its own, and it's just strolling through the clearings in these parts. It looks quite cold at the moment. The wind's blowing very strongly where we are, but this animal has been moving quite consistently at a steady pace, and I think it's going somewhere specifically. Why do hyenas have spots? The spots they have help with their camouflage. This particular hyena, this is actually called, or better known as, the spotted hyena. And you can see how well it blends in. Now, even though it's not that clear, it's got its ears up, but it pulls it back every now and again because of the wind is quite cold actually, and its nose is up in the air. I think I'm just going to slow down here for now and see where it goes, because it's coming up to a junction on the road. Now we've literally watched this hyena where it's just walking into the clearings. It stops every now and again, scans along the edges to see if there is anything. And if it hears something, like now, just stops to listen out a little bit more carefully. I think it might be relieving itself. maybe it was marking. Now these hyenas, I know it doesn't look like it's moving that quickly, but the pace that they move at is astonishing, and when they move like this they can cover a massive distance in one evening. Like I'm pretty sure this hyena has done. It's probably been moving around all night, occasionally stopping to listen out. Now at the moment, during the morning hours after a long night of foraging, we often found that the hyenas move back to the den site. And I know within this particular area, in the direction that she's moving towards the riverbed, there's a lot of large termite mounds up on the bank of the Timbavati riverbed. And although they move constantly, these termite mounds often get used as den sites, which is a possibility for this hyena to go to. But we're going to continue along from here. Where that hyena is going at the moment, we won't be able to follow it, and we're going to continue along the riverbed to see if we might find some signs. Now I don't see the hyena at the moment anymore. So, a question from one of our viewers. How do hyenas digest bones? Hyenas have incredibly strong stomach acids, and basically anything they eat, they digest. Bone, even hooves partially, although occasionally we do see hyenas regurgitating pieces of hooves, pieces of small pieces of bone, and parts of the coat of animals, like the fur itself. But the acids in their stomach is incredibly strong, and it breaks down the bone almost completely. And because of that, their scat turns to be white as well after a while.
We have had no luck so far, but that is okay. We are not too depressed yet, Theodore and I. We haven't seen any sign of a leopard or her cub. But this is the area to which they were heading yesterday. Now, they could easily have been heading somewhere else, have bypassed this area entirely. So we must just patiently fossick around and see what we can see. There are reports of wild dogs heading down towards Djuma from the north, so if they come on to Djuma, we'll try and race up there and have a look. But right now we are just trawling very slowly towards the east. And of course, seeing tracks on a day like today, very difficult, because the light is so flat, so there's very little contrast on the ground. So ideally what you want to see is a carcass hanging from a tree. That would be the best thing.
So still no idea what these lionesses are contact calling for. We've had them constantly contact calling for the last 10 minutes now, but they're not really moving too far. the older female has gone up ahead and the younger female has been hanging around with the cubs, been very playful with them, but also contact calling still. But the cubs couldn't care at all what's going on. They just want to play. It'll be very interesting to see if it is the rest of the pride up ahead, because the rest of sub-adults would also be playful, but sometimes play a little bit too rough with these youngsters. Tom, they are indeed, and you know, they're pretty nimble at this age. They are still clumsy, and from time to time we've seen them trip over their own feet now while running after each other on the road. There's a bit of a dip on each side, and when they run from one side of the road to the other, they lose their balance a bit. Oh, take down. It ran right on top of that little mound, and then it's one sibling hit it right off the mound there. Coming from the left, grass. It's one of the things I love about watching them play, is that they have such a low concentration, and they'll be running after each other, then all of a sudden they see a fight. So we've got the 4 youngsters here. There is one more to oh, there we go. It's coming back. We've pushed a little bit of sand up the grass. Oh, let me bite this grass. Okay, no, yeah, my siblings again. Cubs use the long grass to stalk with. That's exactly how they're going to. Behind a little bit, I can hear the 2 adults contact calling maybe 100 meters up ahead, so I'm sure that they're going to have to catch up at some point. And the contact call that the mothers would be a slight call than what they would do if they were contact calling the rest of the pride. So the moment the mothers want the youngsters to join up, they'll do a slightly different type of contact call. To our ear will probably sound the exact same, but those cubs know that contact call's for them, and they're going to run over. So I'm going to stick with them. Let's get a couple of very good views.
I'm going to move beaks. We've got Tandy, everyone. I don't know if Cub is here, so I just want to go very, very slowly. She's right behind the thicket. Okay, I don't know if the little one is here. Let's just watch. We've just spotted her this second. Oh! I think it's Tandy. Yes, it's Tandy. Hello, girl. Where's your little one? She doesn't look particularly full. We were all hoping that she would have made a kill last night, especially because of this awful weather. Everyone's saying, yay! Now, she brought the little one onto Juma, her son, so it has to be somewhere. I hate saying it, but it's not got a name yet. Hello, beautiful. I don't see any signs of movement of a little cub running in tow. She's maybe left him somewhere. I will have to call this in, but the radio's going crazy because dogs are around. Tandy, right now we are at the junction of Drakensberg and Mamba. So just bear with me, everyone. I'm going to have to call this in. Good morning, mobile stations. We've located Tandy, female Ingwe, at the junction of Mamba, Drakensberg. She looks good though, look at that body. She actually does, she has fed since last night. I think she's maybe survived on a scrub hair or 2, or possibly 3. Look at that muscular back. Many of you are saying she's posing. Yes, she is. She's also scanning, she's hungry. It's cold, it's really cold this morning. Mammals, of course, generate more heat by eating. That's my excuse in winter. From metabolic heat. The process generates heat. Although mammals maintain their internal body temperature, the metabolic heat that is produced can help make a mammal like Tandy feel warmer. She's hungry. I'm just going to get my binos out because there's not a lot of ambient light today. Lots of cloud cover. I just want to check the cub's not somewhere. And I'm just missing him. Jasmine, to be perfectly honest with you, oh, she's on the move, this is not going to be easy. I know these leopards so well that I am able to recognize them from a distance, but it was difficult to start with. I think we better keep up with her beak or it's going to be tricky. With Tandy, she's an older leopardess, so the minute I see those ears and that unique facial expression that she has, the saggy tummy, I immediately know it's Tandy. We were also looking for Tandy. We knew she was roughly in this area. But if you see a leopard for the first time and you really don't know who it is, the best option is to immediately get the sex. And it's not hard at all. You just look. Boys have quite prominent golden testicles. And then once you know the sex, you can sort of figure out who it is by area, because they will be within their own territory. And then you can look at the spot pattern on the whiskers. That's always a good thing to do as well. They have a unique spot pattern on that top line of their whiskers, and that will tell us exactly which leopard it is. Okay, it's about to get a little bit hairy here, I'm afraid. This is not an easy block that she's taken us through, but I shall do my best. She's on a mission. The cub's definitely not with her. I wonder where she left it. The last time I saw Tandy, she'd made a kill and it was stolen by Corky. So hopefully she can make a kill and hoist it today. I didn't get that name, but leopard camouflage, they are the best at camouflage. So that rosette pinnas, that rosette spot pattern on the coat helps them sort of blend into the background, especially the colour. The colour is very tawny, fawny, and it really blends into that winter sort of scenery that we have in front of us now. But it will also blend into the summer scenery. And, goodness, Tandy, I've got my work cut out for me this morning. And it's basically disruptive marking. So although it's very beautiful to us and it really stands out, it disrupts her entire body outline, which makes it really easy for her to blend in. Leopards are incredible at camouflage. I don't actually quite know how I spotted her this morning. Can we get her from here, Beaks? It's not easy. She's really, really on the move. Smelling everything as she goes. I think she'll be hunting for 2. Looking to get food for the little one as well. Okay, Williamson, you're asking if she's got a limp. Not that I've noticed. I mean, she's 14 years old, so Tandy definitely isn't in her prime anymore, but I didn't particularly notice any limp there. She's maybe just a little bit stiff, but I don't think in any way she is injured. We'll try and get a better look at her for you. I really don't like where she's taken us. She may head into this drainage down here. My BK, hold on. The invisible tree stumps are dangerous. So she has to have left the little one in this block behind us. Okay, I'm going to do my very best to keep up with Tandy here. Hopefully she doesn't disappear into the drainage.
As you can see, it is a windy, stormy, very interesting morning here at Pride Lands. Cold, and so far, quite barren. Hi, I'm Mike. Behind the camera is Gert, and you're here at Ecotraining's Pride Lands Conservancy. And we are in the area where those lions were yesterday. Well, we've come to the area where we think they were heading. And so far, we haven't come up with any tracks, but it has been extremely windy. And so, for one, the tracks might have been erased by the wind, or with this wind and this cloud, it would have been a very dark and scary night for the predator, for the prey, like an impala and stuff. And there were some giraffes in the area, so maybe those lions did hunt successfully, and they're currently sitting in one of these blocks around here. So we're just doing a few loop-de-loops, hoping that we either hear them or see some signs of them that will give us a better idea of where those lions went last night. With that being said, let's keep moving, because sometimes on mornings like this, things can turn up some interesting stuff. Taylor, don't cry. These weather conditions are tough, but for the predators, it's fantastic. It's really good for them. This is their best hunting opportunities when the weather is not so good for the prey species. And some of my best sightings, well, I wouldn't say my best sightings, some of the most exciting sightings I've had have been in difficult weather conditions, either rain or heavy wind or whatever, because the predators tend to do some interesting things during those kind of weather conditions. So never fear, Taylor. I'm sure something's going to turn up very interesting at some point. Just about persistence. Everything in the bush is about patience and persistence, and also a little bit of luck. Oh, quite a lot of luck, actually, to be honest, especially on these kind of mornings when you can't really find tracks easily. I mean, it's cloudy, we don't see shadows on the tracks, and the wind is destroying them for the most part. So we just have to have our eyes tuned in to the right spot at the right moment. It's exciting. I remember one safari I had where there was a guy with me. I remember him very well. He used to come every year. And it was raining so hard, he just had 2 raincoats on, hoods over, couldn't see anything, and we were racing quite fast to get out of this very stormy, lightning, thunder weather. When we got back to the camp, we hadn't really seen much. We saw some lions, but it was raining. It wasn't a good sighting, but he said it was the most exciting safari he's ever had because of the rallying we had to do to get back to the camp to get out of that stormy weather. So it's not always about what animals you see, it's just about the experience. Sometimes. Okay, we're getting close to the road which takes us directly to where those lions were. In fact, last night we had reports that they were actually heading north towards where we are now on this particular road. So we're going to take it and see what we find.
She's just up here sitting under this tree, but I'm not sure if we're going to get a visual. Let's just see if you zoom in, BK. I'll be able to... Okay, perfect. We need to keep our eye on her. She's taking us through quite a tricky block, but we've survived. And she's definitely looking for food. And I think it's for the two of them. It's probably been a very long, windy night. And the cub's on Juma. Obviously, we can't go look for the cub. We don't want to spend any time with it without Mom. But it's here. It's on Juma. Tandy girl, can you please walk along the roads? Tandy's routes, I've noticed as she's got older, have become very predictable. There are certain roads that we know Tandy takes, whereas the likes of Kalamba, she's far more difficult. She's really, really difficult to figure out. We know roughly her territory, but I don't think we know it well enough. Since she's became territorial, Kalamba's a difficult one to find. Shudulu's also quite predictable, and I wonder if when a leopardess gets older, she starts to, well, take very predictable pathways. Tandy's shifted right down to the southeast of Juma. Her territory extends into Torchwood, and I'm afraid I don't know by how much, I'm afraid, because we don't traverse Torchwood. But Juma is very small. Beach girl, I think she's just brought the cub to Juma because she wanted to go to Juma. I really don't think it's got anything to do with Tingana or Hukumuri. I really don't. Juma's still very much her territory, remember. She just seems to have shifted her territory, which is natural. Got a vehicle coming this way as well. We'll need to move. Vehicle on Mamba Road, are you looking for Tandy?
Yeah, copy. Yeah. What visual you, thanks.
Copy. She'll be on your left side. You might have to pop in again. She's making her way through the block. So yes, Beach Girl, I really don't think it's got anything to do with Tingana or Hukumuri. I think she's just crossed east into this part of her territory. I do feel Mulwati is the best candidate for father. Sorry, BK, I'm changing my mind. There's lots of fallen over trees that I'm never going to get around here. Okay, everyone. I do not know how to get through here, I'm afraid. We're going to have to take the long way around. Like Mario Kart obstacle course here. Did you ever used to play Mario Kart? I loved it. Mario! Actually, we might make it. There we go. Okay, once again, Mario Kart style. I was princess. I'm going to do my very best to follow the Queen.
Forward. So we've just found the reason why they've busy been contact calling. So you'll see that it's the male off to the right, and I'm still been calling to. They came past him. One of the females chased him away. Over 20 the vibe, but yet they will contact.
Sorry about that. A couple of technical glitches in the big front that's covering the country. We're currently on Simbambili, the reserve to the west of Juma, following up on some wild dogs that were seen coming in here. We had their tracks. They were moving along the road. We've seen some fairly panicked impala, but unfortunately have not found any dogs just yet. but certainly we are very excited about the prospect of wild hounds. I think that they've probably headed into that block over there. What we'll just do quickly now is turn off and have a listen to see if we can hear their twittering calls. No, just the wind, rustling the trees and the branches. Alas. Alright, let's carry on. Theodore's never seen wild dogs before, so if we find wild dogs, it will be doubly exciting. We must have been very close on their tails, because Santa Maria, I shall do my level best, I promise, to find them. Yeah, I think they've gone off-road somewhere down here. But let us hope. There's one impala. We'll keep on searching.
She's on top of a very, very small termite mound. Actually quite a pathetic termite mound in terms of termite mounds. Using it as a vantage point. Scanning. What's around? Where are all the delicious impala? Oh. Tandy can look very fierce, and then she has days where she just looks like a young girl again. A very impressive leopardess, everyone. As was Karula too. Been really lucky with our leopardesses here in this area of the northern sector of the Sabi Sands. 14 years old. And still looking after a 5 to 6 month old cub. That's incredible. Now she's probably using all her senses here. Smelling in the wind. Listening. And of course looking. She's raised 5 cubs to independence. Not including the little one, of course, because it's not independent. She's raised Tlalamba, Kuchava, Bahuti, Wabaiza, and Tamba. It's very, very impressive. Now, Wabaiza is no longer with us, I'm afraid, but she still did raise him to reach independence.
Fabian Glover on Gary, Maine.
Yes. Sorry, Kirsten, one more time. That game drive does not have good timing. Okay, beaks are going to move. Jeremiah, yes, she is a grandma in leopard years. And a grandma, literally, Kuchava's got offspring. And I'm sure Tamba has fathered, we just aren't aware of it. And yeah, she's definitely a grandma. A good looking one at that too. This wind is howling. It's actually the perfect weather for her to hunt. I think if we can keep up with her, she's definitely going to make a kill. She sees something. She's running. Yep, she definitely sees something. That vantage point worked for her. And she's going to use the wind to her advantage here today, as predators do. I'm going to try and go around this turn right now. That's okay, Beaks? Completely habituated to vehicles. A complete expert in her own environment. She knows the land like no one else. And our territory has shifted over the years, of course. And she's now gone back to her natal stomping grounds. That is Torchwood. She's gone back to where she started. Many of you are hoping she hunts. Me too. It'd be nice to actually have a sort of static sighting with Tandy. Watch her feed, watch her bring the cub. It would be so lovely for everybody. Oh, she's posing again. Now you can see she's a much older leopardess if you just look at that saggy tummy. 7 litters. Not all have been successful, I'm afraid, but she's definitely got a male in there, a small one. And you can just tell also by her ears, they're very tattered. She's slightly saggy under the chin too. She's just an older leopardess. If you put her next to Tlalamba, you can really see that there's a difference in age, but she still looks mighty fine. Now we passed lots of impala on the way here. She just needs to, that's a perfect size for her and cub. And she needs to make sure this time she hoists it. There's hyenas lurking around every corner. We have the knowledge that this is perfect hunting weather for leopards. Hyenas have that knowledge too, trust me. Only 16% of all leopard hunts in the Kruger Park results in success. 16%. That's under a fifth. So that's why Tandy needs to accuse... I can never say this word. I don't know what is wrong with me this morning. That's probably because I boiled water on the stove. I'm only joking. Everything needs to be so precise. Leopards don't just run course like wild dogs or even hyenas when they're hunting. It's an ambush, it's a stalk. You've got to get within a specific distance of the prey without being noticed before she'll make a launch. And even then, the prey can still escape. She's definitely in hunting mode, that's for sure. Nina... Did you see her running there? I don't quite know what she's running after. Nina, on average, leopards can live anywhere sort of between 12 to 16. There's some records of much older leopards making it to 18, but again on average between 12 to 16, I would say. This differs from in the wild and captivity, of course, but female leopardesses are said to outlive the males. Same with lions. She sees something. He's pointing at something. I have no idea what it is. Oh yes. Steenbok, I think. Oh my goodness, I don't think the Steenbok sees her. She's getting closer. Not quite as big as an impala. Female Steenbok. Doesn't see her. She's right there. This is really important for Tandy and Cub. Just gonna have to get this right. It's off, but it's not seen her. She's still following it. It hasn't seen her. Steampunk probably just moved off because of the Franklin or because of us, but it's not seen Tandy. Look at this. goodness, now I've lost both of them. I can't see. Oh, I can just see Tandy moving there. Well done, BK. If she launches, we'll move. Oh, I can see the steenbok. Yes, I can just see it. It's still feeding. It's grazing. It's not seen her. Let's just wait and see what happens. I know it's not the most fantastic visuals, but I don't want to interrupt this. This is very important for Tandy. This meal. And it could mean that we get to see the cup. Many of you are on the edge of your seat. Me too. Although I'm always on the edge of my seat because I'm small. And I can't reach the pedals. Bitches. Yet the steenbok has not seen her, and she knows that. They run away much further and much faster if they see a leopard. I just really don't want to put the engine on until... Come on, Tandy. I can't see the steenbok anymore. She'll still be able to see it though. There's a lot of work that goes into this. It's not just a case of being boisterous and launching at everything like Hosanna in his young days used to do. It requires a level of expertise. Don't worry, we'll get closer in just a bit. Let's just see what happens here. Got to make the right decision for the animal at the end of the day. Now I can't see her. Can you see her, BK? Okay. Oh, there we go. This is incredible. She's very focused on this task in hand. I wonder where the steenbok is. She's launched. She's launched. I have no idea if she's got it or not, but we can go forward now that she's made that launch. I have no idea if that was successful. I don't think so. I can see her ahead. We've unfortunately got a huge tree blocking our way. Hold on, BK, I'm sorry. No, that was unsuccessful, I'm afraid, everyone, and that's exactly how it goes for leopards out here. She'll hunt this morning, I'm absolutely sure of it. But it wasn't that one. There's another huge log. Should I try and get over it? Should I not? The last time I was following Tandy, we snapped a steering rod. I think I'm gonna have to go round. Sorry, Beaks. Yeah, this is gonna take some time to navigate around all of this, I'm afraid. There's just fallen trees everywhere. There's an active burrow. I wonder what lives in there. Okay, as I sort of navigate through the mess of the elephants, I'm not navigating anywhere. Wish me luck. Hopefully, I can keep up with Tandy.
So very interesting. From not wanting to spend any time with the male, the females now are following the male. So he's just up ahead. You might be able to hear the impala's alarm calling. Now they stopped. So just up ahead to our left is where the male's gone, and now we've got the two females with the cubs lagging from behind, which is very typical behavior when they're on the move. Females up ahead, cubs behind them, and then therefore the females are the first line of defense. So if they do come across any danger up ahead, they could say to the cubs run, and they could get between the danger and them. If they do start to hunt, they'll signal to the cubs to lie down, not to move, and they'll carry on stalking. We just had a very brief moment of the sun finally coming through. Ruth, you are correct. So this lioness, the older lioness of the pride, is a very, very large lioness. It's a pity that she walked right behind the bush now, because when you get to see her next to the younger lioness, you can see the size difference. She's just got a massive head. So the cub's obviously a little bit inquisitive with the impala's alarm calling, having a look around, watching the impalas. Probably still a little bit too young to even try to stalk them. In about 3-4 months' time, you'll see that these youngsters will start to try and hunt, although they won't be successful. But if they see an impala, even zebra off in the distance, they will try and stalk them, but very unsuccessfully. Rolene, no, unfortunately not. It's going to be a long time till one of these youngsters are able to defend themselves against a hyena. If you're talking about a single hyena, probably when these cubs are closer to about 1.5 years, a hyena probably wouldn't attempt to try and kill them. But 2 or 3 hyenas against a 1.5 year, 2-year-old lion, it would still battle to be able to defend itself. But no, unfortunately at this age, a lion cub like this wouldn't even be able to defend itself against a female leopard, which is remarkably smaller than that of a hyena, and obviously doesn't have as sharp of a, or as strong as of a jaw. So at this age, they're still relying heavily on the protection of their mother and the male, and that is, we've been talking about, I wonder why they contact calling the male and then they chase him away. They don't want him around. And I think that, you know, although the females don't necessarily want him right with them, having the male nearby, Rolene, is also a form of defense for these youngsters. You know, if you've got the big male around, if they do come across a big clan of hyenas who could be, you know, potentially dangerous towards these youngsters, having the male around would most certainly ward those hyenas away. And once again, they changed direction. So now this is the 5th direction that they've walked in today. So this pride's being very indecisive. And now walking downwind, which isn't ideal. So anything that's in the direction that they're walking in would be able to smell them, which then tells us that they're probably not too interested in hunting at the moment. I think that they just really want to follow this male and see where he's off to.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
She's finally taken a rest. Not complete rest. She's also on top of this small termite mound looking. Now if there's a lineup, we may have to pull out soon, I'm afraid. But that's okay, we can always come back and join later. She looks rather sad, doesn't she? And that little steenbok lives to tell the tale. Yeah, she is sulking. Didn't get her way. The Tandy way. We got really lucky spotting her this morning because she has not walked on a road once. She's navigated through the block, and that's why leopards are so hard to find. When they walk on roads, we can see their tracks, we can follow them, we can get an indication where they are. But when they don't walk along the roads and they're deep in the blocks, it's almost impossible to spot them or find them. She's left no trace of her presence from last night to today because she's walked through the thick blocks. We're just lucky that it's winter, and not summer. I really, really want to see her catch a meal. Come on, Tandy girl. You can do this. I know you heard me. Yvette, yes, she's left the cub somewhere and just communicated to it to stay stationary. So it's probably not hiding. It's not in a den, but it will be somewhere in a block, maybe under a tree sleeping, or maybe in a tree sleeping. Can climb by that age. It might need to perfect its skills a little bit, but it can definitely still climb. So yes, she's just left the cub. And what was interesting yesterday, if any of you saw the sighting, we found the cub yesterday, and the cub was full of beans, full of joy. Mama's here, this is great, we're going on an adventure, running from left to right to left to right, like a yo-yo, zoing, zoing, zoing. And when it strayed a little bit too far, because it was getting very excited, it was running, Tandy stopped and chuffed. She was telling cub, come back right now to mum. And it was amazing to watch that. If any of you have maybe missed it, go back and watch it. She was very much telling the cub, she was scolding it, come back. Don't you run too far away. And the cub, of course, responds to mum. It's all the cub knows is mum. Everything is mum. Food comes from mum. Instructions come from mum. Safety comes from mum. She's been quite secretive with this cub, and I completely understand it. Okay, I'm going to get onto this game drive radio, find out what the lineup is, and hopefully we can stay here a little bit longer.
We have got here a group of extremely chilly but extremely relaxed wildebeest and impala. They're all totally chilled and clearly haven't seen any wild dogs. The only sound they're making is the crunching of grass with their hoofs, and one of them has a cough. And we're looking straight southeast. So I think probably what we'll do once we've enjoyed this sighting of a large herd of impala is head north and see if that pack isn't going that way. But otherwise we'll go back to Djuma and see what's on offer there. I must say, I think it's very brave of all of them to be out here on the clearings when it is so beastly cold. Cat got my tongue. It's probably slightly more complicated than that, but I take your point. Why haven't wild dogs evolved such that more than one female in the pack gives birth? Well, I think what you're doing is making the mistake of looking at it from the point of view that evolution works on a species as a whole as opposed to on an individual level. And I think probably somewhere in there you'll find the answer. There are lots of different strategies, and the disadvantage, I suppose, or the advantage of having just one female giving birth is that the entire pack gets to look after that small litter. And I suspect that if every female in the pack gave birth, there just wouldn't be any chance that the whole pack would be able to look after all of those puppies. So, I mean, some of those litters can be up to 24 pups. And can you imagine 2 or 3 females in a pack having 24 pups each? It would be a disaster. There's no way they'd be able to look after them all. And so what's happened is that instead of a few a few females having just a couple of babies, they've got one female who has a lot of babies. Now, you could easily argue that it would work better if, say, 3 or 4 females had 4 pups each, and that might be a workable strategy. But it doesn't necessarily work evolution doesn't necessarily work in the most logical way. It works in, there's a yellow-billed kite. Quickly, see the bird flying over there? Ha! I was talking about them yesterday. I'll get back to this complicated question. Cat got my tongue now. That's a yellow-billed kite. Is it? Yes, I think it is. That's the first one of the year. Just talking about them yesterday. So that's a migratory bird. It's being bombed by some lapwings. So that's very cool. While you look at that, so cat got my tongue. Yes, you could argue that it might work if there were 3 or 4 females and they all gave birth to 2 or 3 pups. Maybe that would work, but the strategy that they have is not that. And you'll probably find that there are some reasons, and I don't know what they are, but one of the reasons could be that by having only the alpha female breeding, what you're doing is ensuring that the strongest genes in the pack are the ones that are propagated. So the most dominant female, the female with the strongest ability to survive, or best ability to survive, is the one that is able to breed. And I think that's probably somewhere in amongst that garbled answer is the reason for why it is that only one female gives birth. Make sense? That's really cool camera work, Theodore. Well done. Good stuff. I mean, I could probably summarize it for you a lot more quickly by simply saying to you, one female giving birth to all the pups ensures the propagation of the best genes in the pack, the most robust genes in the pack. Same works from the male's point of view. But it's not necessarily the only strategy that would work. Wild dogs are largely endangered because of human beings. They're not endangered necessarily because of their breeding strategy. It's their breeding strategy and way of life that simply does not mesh with human beings and our cutting up of the landscapes and inability to live with them. And also, of course, domestic dog diseases. But I think you'll find that if there was enough space, that wouldn't be an issue. Cool. Haven't even mentioned those zebras. I got so excited by the wild dog question and the sight of a yellow-billed kite. I think what I'm going to do is turn around and head towards the north now.
As you can see, we have managed to find a buffalo. Probably, maybe, one of the buffaloes that is part of the group that the lions were interested in yesterday, but I'm not 100% sure. We're quite far now from where we last saw those lions. We didn't find any tracks or signs at all of those lions. It's probably been demolished by the wind. We drove quite extensively all around there and we could not see anything, so they might have gone flat somewhere. But this buffalo is quite spectacular. It's a huge bull, big, huge boss and horns. As you can see, it's very, very windy, lots of sticks moving about. Even the whole trees are starting to shake in this very persistent, strong wind, but these buffaloes aren't too phased. There's about 8 of them here, all enjoying the, I guess, very dry grass at the moment. And there's some elephant bulls also in the same area. You can't see them at the moment. It's good to spend time with these beasts, these huge bulls. They're so relaxed. In fact, this morning when I came out my tent, it was very, very dark. And I think it was one of the same buffaloes. He was literally right outside my... Rosemary, I think it was giving us a bit of a murder stare. Yeah, grumpy, you know, probably didn't sleep so good with all this wind, to be honest. But yeah, and also because I woke them up very early. They were right outside my tent. You know, I just stumbled out of my tent, still wiping the sleep from my eyes, and then I heard a big stampede, and I turned my head torch on and looked to the right, and there was just a few pairs of eyes looking at me. They were sleeping right outside, and unfortunately gave them a very rude awakening this morning. So, sorry about that, buffaloes. Don't take it out on us, though. No hard feelings. Look at that. Look how well camouflaged they are. I don't even know if it's... That's an elephant! Holy moly. Hello, Mr. Elephant. There's a group of bull elephants also in this area, as you can see, and they're also hiding in these thickets. It's just too windy for everything. Nothing likes it. Nothing likes this wind, really. Even the lions, I think. I mean, at this stage now, it's getting quite late in the morning, and if they haven't hunted successfully, they'll probably want to rest now, but it'll also be difficult for them with all this wind. They'll find themselves a hollow somewhere, maybe down in a drainage line, some soft sand, to rest. I'm sure you can hear the wind in my mic. It's very aggressive. Should calm down tomorrow, though. All over. Huge front passing through. Huge wind front. Very cold and chilly. I don't know what the temperature is where you are, but right now here it's about 15 degrees, maybe a little bit colder, but it feels colder because of the wind chill. August, Anna Marie, August is always, well, not, I shouldn't say always, but it is considered a very windy month. Gert was telling me that's why they call it August. Oh, Gert, good one. Yeah, so it is, Anna-Marie, very windy. Always very windy. Dusty, windy, and it's, you know, the precursor to the spring. So this wind blows in generally the good weather. I say the good weather, the warmer weather, and the rain, which we so desperately need. As you can see, it's very, very dry. Hardly a leaf left on any of these trees. So all the animals are starting to feel that it's time for the spring. It's been a decent winter. Nice and dry, but we're ready for some rain now, some warm weather. And all the animals are going to start losing condition. If it stays dry like this much longer, you see what they're having to eat. It's not very great stuff. And as we talked about before, the ruminants like this buffalo, they can get the most of the nutrients out of this dry stuff. Whatever's left there, they can get. But the bulk grazers, the hindgut fermenters, they don't digest very, very well. And so they need the good quality grasses and leaves. So they're desperate at the moment for the good stuff. Still in good condition. We saw Liz and Linda, our warthog friend, in the camp, the one-eared warthog, and she still looks like she's in good condition. So hopefully the rains will come early this year.
Good morning, everyone. It is a fantastic day out here, and it is great to see you. At Swalu, it is freezing this morning. Well, we actually went down to -3. Minus freeze. No, that was very weak. Anyway, Darvy's on camera. Good man, Darby, you're braving the cold in the wind there. And my name's Dylan. Something very, very exciting. There was reports from our field ranger teams this morning of a leopard moving in this area. She's been up and down. There's quite a few tracks, so we suspect she may have a kill there somewhere. So we're going to stick around here a little bit, not too much longer. Rebecca has actually found the meerkats, and they're back at their burrow. We haven't seen them a couple of days, so we'll head out that way. But this afternoon, I think we're going to spend quite a bit of time in this area then, and hopefully we can actually get a sighting of a good old Kalahari leopard for you. The challenge here, of course, for tracking these animals in this environment is all these hills. You know, if a leopard goes up into these hills, we'll be extremely lucky to see it. But if we do see it, it will be a fantastic sighting, because you can actually view that animal from a long distance away, even if they're moving all the way along the hills and that. So I'm really hoping if we can locate a kill somewhere in the area here. They'll often stash their kills up in the rocks, and it could be anything from impala to reedbuck to pigs to, it could even be something small, a guinea fowl or a rabbit or anything. But I'm just really excited that there was a sighting here last night, or actually early hours of the morning. So yeah, and it looks like a female by the tracks, and I'll show you some tracks just now. So yeah, that's some really, really good news. But just, yeah, I hope wherever you are that you're staying warm, that you're tucked up in bed with some coffee or a hot chocolate or whatever. And let's just do this. So let's just get a leopard for you. But we'll head to the meerkats as well, because I know, like I say, we haven't seen them a couple of days. Are people discussing why I don't wear long pants? So I said I'm not going to wear long pants for going on game drives. I don't care how cold it is. Long pants are not for guides. I'm sorry. I think also the animals would laugh at me if they saw me wearing long pants. They'd be like, really? Like, we live out here all the time in these conditions, and you're wearing long pants? No. And I've also got a fur coat anyway, you see. So I'm furry enough to survive in these conditions. And it's actually not that cold. -3 is not so bad. Yeah. But I want to show you these leopard tracks quickly. Yeah. Oh, Alan says, I'm not allowed to complain about the cold if I don't wear long pants. Alan, I'm not complaining about the cold. I'm just saying it's cold. There's a difference. So, here's this leopard track.
Let's just do the one further away.
Okay, just where do you want me?
No, just here. I've got it on screen.
Yeah.
You're just following it.
Like that? Yeah. Which one are you on? This one?
Oh, you just clicked on it.
No, yeah.
Oh.
There we go. So this is the leopard track over here. And you can see compared to my hand, I'll just put my hand there. You can get a nice idea of the size. So this is a female track. And there's the three lobes at the back. It's quite faint, but she moved from that direction, coming towards me. Okay, so up this way somewhere, the field ranger team actually saw it just up ahead over here. So it'll be really nice. We're just going to go along slowly on the way to the meerkats. We're going to scan along the side of the hills, and hopefully, we'll find something.
Look in the camera when you look back.
So we're still looking for these lions, and at this point, with the wind, it's been a really tricky search this morning. We have found some tracks on this road that we're driving now, and they've cut off to the block off to our right. Now that is one big block, and it's a very tricky block to track in. There is lots of long grass, and these animals can be laying down anywhere here. So the trackers are off on foot, and they are making sure that they're not missing anything. So we're going to continue along, and hopefully we might be able to spot them somewhere, and not long from now.
The devourer of the bees. We have a very obliging bee eater with his turquoise eyeshadow on, thick black eyeliner, ready for the day. Good morning. Where are all the bees? You can get a really good close-up look at how sharp that beak is, and that's of course their tool for devouring insects. Predators in their own right. Leapin, you're saying that is a pretty bird. I know, it's one of my favourites, but I have hundreds of favourites, but still, it's holding on, perched on this branch here, fighting against the wind, looking pretty, and I imagine hungry. I think everybody's hungry this morning. I've already had my banana and peanut butter, but little bee eaters are actually experts at taking insects out the air, so hunting insects during flight and taking them whilst flying themselves, and of course they favour bees and wasps. Let's just give it a second. Sometimes they come back to the same branch. Now, as you may have guessed, we had to leave Tandy, I'm afraid. It's a very busy sighting, but we're going to stay in the area, and as soon as a slot becomes available again, we are going to rotate and go back in. Hopefully by then she'll... BK, there it is there. I don't know if you can get it from here. Can you see it? I don't want to turn on the engine. That's a... down here?
Where?
Ah, there we go.
Can you see it? Can you click for me?
Okay, I think the bee eater is done with being on camera, so we're just going to hang around, lurk around the area, and hopefully we'll be back with Tandy soon.
So we've found the rest of the elephant bulls that were in the area of those buffaloes. And as you can see, it's eating some bark, the equivalent of elephant biltong. For those of you who don't know what biltong is, it's basically like jerky, like beef jerky. This is the equivalent for an elephant. Look what it's doing. It's using its tusk to gouge out a piece of the bark, and then it hooks it with its trunk and just rips it along. And you can see, oh, look at that, that's cool. Wow, that's actually a really good view of it. Do you see that? And the bottom of that bark, the paler part, that's the cambium, that's the sugary nutrient transporting stuff. Oh, shame, this poor knobthorn or whatever it is not going to be feeling so hot in the rest of the season. Now it's using its trunk to manipulate that bark. It's going to put it in its mouth and chew it, but it's going to spit out the dry, tough section and just eat the softer red and pale part, which has got that sugary sap. It's not really sugary, to be honest. It's got some sugars in it. It's more like carbs. Shouldn't be eating carbs so early in the morning, honestly. But you got to do what you got to do in the winter, right? And when you haven't got much options, when there's not much around, you've got to eat whatever you can. And they have big elephants, these bulls, so they need to eat as much as possible. There's a whole bunch of bulls walking up the hill there, but we can't really see them so good anymore. You can see this elephant's been stripping the bark off this whole tree. The whole top of this tree, the bark is basically gone. And now if it strips the bark off the whole tree all the way around, the tree will die. The knobthorn won't survive. It won't be able to transport nutrients and minerals from its roots to its leaves, and it won't be able to send energy from the leaves down into the rest of the tree. Butterfly, that is. That's true. I guess it is kind of like skinning the tree alive. I never thought of it that way. Wow, that's aggressive. but I guess true. The tree, I don't know if trees have feelings. I don't think so. I'm going to assume the tree doesn't really feel what's going on, so thank goodness for that, right? Although trees can communicate, which is interesting. These particular trees, the ones that used to be known as acacias, they are well documented to release certain chemicals into the air, which tell the other trees that there's a predator about, like this elephant, and then they start raising the tannin levels, which is very bitter. Tannin is a very bitter chemical found in leaves. The trees start pumping tannins into their leaves and making it less tasty, and so that when the elephants or giraffes or whatever it is walk up to that tree and taste it, they go, oh no, this is not good, and then they don't eat the tree that much. So it's clever. Trees can communicate. It's something that I find very, very fascinating. I forget what it's called though. I forget what that specific communication is called. There is a word for it. I'll figure it out. And there's a fork-tailed drongo also flying in the foreground there. We've noticed there's not too many birds flying around today. With this cold weather and the wind, the small birds, they don't do so well in this cold snaps that we have. And the larger birds like eagles and vultures, they are fighting the wind and with their big bodies and large wings. It's not so easy for them, so they'll just get blown off course, and it'll take a lot of energy for them to get back to where they need to go. So not too much happening in the skies today, apart from lots of wind and lots of clouds.
He's not worried. We've got a beautiful elephant sighting here. A lovely herd moving along the northern side of the Sabi Sands towards the gate, actually. And we were lucky enough to pick them up, and they're just coming to investigate us and make sure that we don't mean any harm to them. The one on the left there is the matriarch of the herd, and the one on the right, who's lifted her head up, is obviously the 2IC. And then they've got some youngsters behind them. I suspect the 2IC is the daughter of the CNC. You can see the bright red marks on the matriarch's trunk there, from where she's been picking at bark. Lovely crackling as they move through this dry vegetation. And they too will be enjoying the knobthorn flowers now that they're out. I'm don't want to move backwards because we're still quite close to them. And they were a little bit nervy as we pulled up. Everybody now completely relaxed. So when we first found them, they were a little bit nervy, and most likely because of the wind. Just a little bit of a look there that said, you know, close enough. Fascinating to watch how the 2IC is sort of hanging back, almost as if she's sort of not quite as convinced as the matriarch that we are safe to be around.
Well, Heart is still feasting, everyone. Can you believe it? She must be really hungry.
Way through there.
We did a nipple check and results are negative. She's also got quite a wound on her nose. I wonder what Heart has been up to. What trouble have you been causing, girl? Heart's very much part of the Juma clan. I really suspected not so long ago that she was getting ready to give birth. Listen to that. Nasty nose wound, and she's really gone after the bone here, the calcium. She's tearing apart the skull, not touching the horns, but she really wants that bone. Hyenas are known as bone crushers, which is not a very nice name, but oh, there's vultures in the air. That's what she's looking at. She can see the vultures. Isn't that amazing? One species being able to recognize the presence of another species in the air may mean something. Oh, that's 3 vultures. Interesting. We can't give you a view, I'm afraid, but they're circling in the same area. That can be an indication that something's going on. It's flying pretty low. Interesting. Heart's also looking. That is incredible. She's completely aware of these vultures. I think the vultures are aware of her and she's aware of the vultures. They're both competitors, I guess. One's a terrestrial form, one's a terrestrial scavenger, the other one's an aerial scavenger. Well, we're going to let Heart enjoy her delicious meal here, and we are heading back to Tandy.
So it's all very tense at the moment. We just watched them stalking some warthogs, and they've chased some warthogs into the valley behind us. And it almost seems like everyone's waiting for something to happen. We've got the male behind us at the moment, looking very ready. The two females at the moment haven't dropped their heads once. They've kept their head up the whole time, scanning left and right, left and right. The cubs, every time they move, they seem to skulk around. They haven't played with each other once. So I think that these lions are very aware that these warthogs could still be around. This area often has zebra, wildebeest and impala in it as well. And maybe 200 meters into the valley, so behind us, is a little waterhole where lots of animals throughout the day are going to start to move between. It is a nice cool morning with quite a strong breeze, and these are the ideal daylight hours to hunt when it is windy and cold like this, because it's cold, so they're not using too much energy while hunting, and because it's windy, it helps them hunt, because the strong wind blowing through the leaves and the grass would mean that any prey would struggle to hear them. Lynn, you're asking why are lion babies called cubs and not kittens? I must be honest, I'm not too sure why only domestic, well, not only domestic cats, but cats are called kittens and lion cubs are called cubs. Maybe it's got to do with the size of the adults. So you do find in some of the feline species where the young are very small, those are kittens, and some of the larger feline species, they're known as cubs. But Lynn, to be honest with you, I'm not sure at all. That is completely just my guess. I'll have to look that up and let you know, Lynn. But I guess this is another great opportunity for anyone in the audience, any of you viewers, to let me know. I'm always happy to learn a new thing. So do send in the answers. You all have Google as well, so I guess you can look it up on Google. How adorable is that? The one cub that is lying between the females is now resting on the leg of its mother. And I say it because I don't know whether it's a male or female. When they're 4 or 5 months, it's very tough to be able to tell whether they're males or females. Probably in about 2 months' time, we will start to see the manes growing on the male. So you'll start to see the mohawk start to form, a little bit of extra hair on the chest, and then maybe just around the jawline area. So we do think, what we've noticed is that it looks like there's only one young male in these 5, so the other 4 are females, which is fantastic, because more females means the pride just gets to grow. Marcel, I don't know if you want to just quickly pan across to the male here. So we've got the male behind us. So we've been very fortunate to get great views of the mothers and the cubs. So I just want to show you the male that's with us. A beautiful, large, dark-maned male. And just like the females, you can see also in a ready position. Ready to, if he needs to, run at any moment after a prey species walking down towards the water. Unfortunately, they haven't really positioned themselves in a good area to hide. You can see that where this male's busy lying in the shade, the grass is really short, and the females that we were looking at earlier also in a really low grass lying area, and thus any prey would easily be able to see them. So for animals that are very aware and alert for the potential of those warthogs to come back, they haven't positioned themselves in a very good spot. as the breeze starts to pick up, it's blowing from right to left at the moment, and they are looking downwind, which unfortunately, if they're hoping to hunt anything in that direction, is most certainly going to smell them, which isn't ideal. But I guess by looking downwind, they'll be able to see if there's any prey off in the distance. And if they do happen to see anything in that direction, they could have a nice big loop around to get into a good position to be able to hunt. So that doesn't mean they can't hunt anything that's downwind. And I guess that they have to look downwind to be able to know what's there, because they won't smell anything in that direction. And you will see that if they do see something in that direction, the females will probably move fairly quickly and do a big loop around to get into the right position. So Stacey, you say that the difference between cubs and cheetahs has to do something with the fact that they purr. That is quite interesting. Because we do know that cheetah cubs purr, and cheetah adults will purr as well, and they're known as cubs, so maybe we've been calling cheetahs wrong the entire time and they should be kittens. But thanks for that, Stacey. It's a interesting fact. I don't know if anyone else might know another reason, or if there's multiple reasons. It could be. So Isabel, you saying it's due to the size is exactly what I thought. Cubs being bigger, kittens being smaller, which kind of makes sense, I guess. And the word kitten also just sounds like it should be a small, cute cat, where cubs would be slightly older and larger. That being said, not everything that is a cat is a cub either, because we know that hyenas are known as cubs. And they are not a cat. Bears, yeah, Marcel says bears are known as cubs. So there's quite a few different animals which are cubs, which aren't necessarily cats. Interesting. Sometimes in English, things just don't always have to make sense either, I guess. Someone just decided that, okay, lions will be cubs and cats will be kittens, and that's just how it is. Do not argue, kind of thing.
We are heading sort of a little bit west again. We're on the northern boundary of Djuma, and the reason that I'm heading west, I was heading due east, is that we've heard a squirrel shouting up here. Now, it could be shouting at a bird, it could be shouting at anything, but it is the only lead I have currently, so we're going to go up and just have a quick look and a listen around here. Perchance there will be a predator that the squirrel has seen and is trying to alert us to. We're just going to go up here and then we'll stop and we'll have a listen. Let's have a listen here. Naturally, the squirrel is now dead silent. Alright, carry on. That's a pity. I suspect what the squirrel saw was a bird of prey flying by. Didn't sound like the strident leopard call. Yes, Midna, squirrels do make many strange noises. I wish I was better at interpreting their noises, I must say. Yeah, I don't think it was a large predatory animal. Oh well, we'll head back down towards the south now. Amy Moose, no, I don't think so. I really think that it's unlikely that it's going to rain. There may be a few spits and spots, but weather like this generally doesn't give us much in the way of rain. It's normally just cold and windy. And when it does rain, it's normally with a storm, and at this time of year you wouldn't expect much rain. With that said, it could quite change in a heartbeat, but I don't think the squirrel's saying it's going to rain.
So while we're still looking for those lions, we've come across some other creatures dealing with the same problems as we are, the cold wind. And here we have 3 Swainson spur fowls. You can see they're sitting close together. They got their necks tucked in. They're trying to insulate themselves, and they're struggling a bit within the wind at this point. They're in between the branches of a fallen over tree, and that might just be to break the wind a little bit. You can see some impala in the background as well. If you have a look, quite a large herd of impala actually. Look at them all clumped together. Some of them grooming each other. But because it's so cold, I think they're standing so close to each other just to try and shelter from the wind. You'll see, if you have a careful look, you'll notice some of them trying to move to get into the middle. And their coats also looks quite fuzzy. Just raising their head to trap a little bit of air in between and warm that up. In that way, they warm themselves. See, there's one wildebeest in between as well. It looks like a male wildebeest. He's also grooming himself. Now, with this wind, I'm sure he would have been laying down in this area today. He's probably the territorial male within this section. He's got a patch where he would have spent the night, and because of the weather today, he didn't feel the need to go and have a early morning drink. You'll notice every now and again some of them picks up their heads while the others feed. But by the looks of things, I don't think they're going to go too far from this spot. And myself and Owen are going to leave these and continue with our search.
So we've moved away from that area where those leopard tracks were, because I promised you we'll go see the meerkats this morning. And I'm thinking as well as that leopards probably moved up into the hills, into those rocks. So it'll be quite challenging to find. When it's so cold, it's going to really be hunkered down somewhere. So I think we'll try it this afternoon once temperatures picked up a little bit. We'll spend a bit of time there this RV. If you're keen for that, of course. Otherwise, I'll go look for anything that you're keen for. And we're heading up to the meerkats now. So we're heading up to the rock stars. They are back at their usual good old burrow, the farm burrow. But it is still pretty nippy out here. Yes, this wind is blowing, but it's switched, which is really interesting. Yesterday it was pushing juice straight out the south, a nice southerly breeze. And that's where our really cold weather comes from, you know, off the South Atlantic. but it's swinging around now, coming from the eastern side, or more from the east. So I think we are in for a bit of a change of weather soon. It'll start getting warmer, I think. But it's a beautiful day out here, cold or not. It is, every day is a good day. And it's just gonna get better by the minute. I was listening to one of our colleagues, so they were talking about a squirrel alarming. I was wondering if it was a squirrel alarming or an alarming squirrel. Shenzi asked if we can do an artful stakeout later. I love that. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm actually planning on doing that either this afternoon or tomorrow. So I think, let me just see how the day goes. I'll go back, I'll have a look at that, those leopard tracks in that area, and I'll just see if I think there's any merit in sticking around that we might do that. Otherwise, I'd be super happy to do an artful stakeout. I'm game for anything, eh? Point me in the direction and I will go. It's always fun. I like these challenges, eh? You know, it's yeah, a good challenge. Like, see how fast you can make a cup of coffee in the morning, like a bit of a race. I can do it with another cup of coffee right now. Coffee right now. Coffee right now. Hey, it's exciting being out here, everyone. Shenzi, it's an absolute pleasure, and yeah, I'll always try my best to get people what they want. Yep. And you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's about going the extra mile. It's about putting in a little bit of effort, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Sandy says we need some birds for our list, 100%. And unfortunately, our really good birder has left. You know, Jandre, he's gone on to Pinda. I think he's trying to increase his bird species count at Pinda. I think he's looking for some of the testiculars and those kind of things. So you can always send him a message on his Instagram account, checking how his bird list is doing. Yeah, I think he'd really appreciate that. But Darby's with me, and Darby's actually also interested in birds and butterflies. Never mind birds, we're going to start keeping a butterfly list soon as well. There's very few around. There's a couple of zebra whites, a couple of monarchs, but not that many butterflies. But in the next month or so, as the temperature warms, there's a lot of acacia blossoms on the edge of coming out, and then our butterfly count is going to start going. So good question, Sandy. We'll start looking for some more birds, and I want to do some butterflies with you as well. Butterflies are the bomb, mate. Yes, I dig butterflies. Chris and Freakers asked if we can also find a velociraptor nest. I will keep my eyes open. If we see one, we'll be sure to try and get it, unless it gets us first. You know, these things happen. Ah, it's a beautiful morning. Hey, another tough day in Africa. Yeah, you've all got to get out here. Seriously, you've got to get here.
So we have the sight as the females and the cubs, and just as you came to me, he decided to plonk his head down. So unfortunately, I was going to try to show you how beautiful have you been for this one Bayala male is. Now it is quite interesting that his other brother hasn't been with him for about 3 or 4 days now. And we know that he's been making lionesses, but they're generally only, so I wouldn't be surprised if his brother doesn't try to find him tonight. He's been in the very far southwest of the reserve. And how they're going to find each other, they would roar. And although they are very far away from each other, they will most certainly be able to hear each other roaring tonight. And what might happen is they might join up together and start to do a little bit of a territory patrol, because what has happened is that both males have been so focused on the females that they actually haven't been walking around their territory. Now the problem with that is that other males, other intruders may be coming into their territory, and that is not what they would want. So they'll probably join up together tonight, roar, let all the males know that these two big boys, this is their territory, and while they walk around the perimeter of their territory, they would scent mark. Now looking at the belly of this male as well, he does look like he needs to hunt, and maybe that's why he's following the females, but if they don't bring him any joy, he will go join up with his brother and hunt. Although yesterday what happened, which was quite strange, and it was one of the first times I've ever seen it, where okay, these females did steal a kill from a leopard, but when the male did finally come in, he didn't come running in and chasing off the females like male lions normally do, and yet what he did is he just waited his turn. And one of the rangers stuck around for a while to see what would happen, and he said that once the females stopped feeding, they got up, walked off, then he came in and started to feed. So which was very strange male lion behavior. For some reason he's being very submissive. Hannah, yes, most certainly some lionesses can be infertile. Sadly, I've witnessed it before. So at one of the lodges that I used to work at in the Sabi Sands called Kirkman's Camp, there is a pride of lions there called the Eiffel Pride, which is a very famous pride of lions, one of actually the first prides of lions in the Sabi Sands that was documented and viewed. And now they're down to, I think, one female, but the other female, the younger female, for about 2 years we watched her mating over and over and over again every couple of months, and unfortunately she did not fall pregnant, which was very sad, and that could be the end of the Eiffel Pride, which is also very sad. This once very famous pride is now left with one old female, probably around the same age as that female that you can see up ahead to the right, who is around 10-11 years old. So that pride of lions is now down to one lion, or one lioness, should I rather say. But you'll notice, although the male has Robert, what we do find, or what you do find, is that there are more males born than females. Statistically, it's not that much larger, but there is a ratio, and so there is slightly more males born than females. And the reason why that would happen is that females, when they're born, they generally stick with the pride, and they stay with the pride for their entire life. That's not always the case. Sometimes prides do split up, but for most parts, females will stick within the pride, and the pride numbers will grow, and it's easy for those females to survive because they've got the reliance on the females within the pride and then the dominant males of that pride. 2 or 3 years to survive until he takes over his own pride, who will then help feed him, although he does hunt, and also help him. During that period of time, quite a few male lions do die. Now, even though a male lion is a dominant male of a pride, when a new coalition comes through, there are enough male lions around, because if there was only
So we are still busy looking for those lions, and the area that we are in at the moment is different from the rest of the parts where we've been moving around the Timavati riverbed. In these particular areas, the soil type is a lot different from closer to the riverbed. We have the gabbro soils here, and we have more of an open grassland. In between, we have small stands of silver cluster leaf trees, like this forest that we're driving in now. And most of these trees, you'll see in between there's one or two green ones, but most of these trees lost their leaves during the winter time. So that's why this kind of looks like a desolate landscape at the moment. And we've been searching very hard, but we haven't been able to find substantial amounts of animals in these parts at the moment. Now we're hoping this is the type of area where when the cheetah that come onto Ngala moves through Ngala, they usually move along these clearings. And we were hoping that maybe we might have a little bit of luck with a cheetah, or maybe with a herd of elephants or buffalo. But nothing yet. Now, some of the grasses, there's still a lot of grass in this area at this point, although the water in this area is almost completely dried up. And all that means is that animals have mostly moved out of this area to areas with more water. They do occasionally still make their way in to come and feed, like the buffalo, for instance. A herd of buffalo, they move in large circular movements where they move from one area with water towards the next, and then they feed nearby. But they don't finish off everything at one point. They're actually quite clever that way. Sometimes they'll feed within an area, and they might stay there a couple of days, move around the water source within that area, head back there to go drink in the morning, in the afternoon, or late afternoon. And once they fed there for a couple of days, they move on to the next area. There's a lot of thorn trees in this particular part. Androck, that's a good question. How different is leopards from cheetah? The leopard is a heavier, stockier built animal. It is a predator that uses stealth, and its particular hunting method is the stalk and pounce. So the leopard is slightly larger. It's got a larger, broader head, stronger jaws, a longer face, and it's got shorter legs. And it's got, the main difference is it's got what we call the combined spot with the name of a rosette. So it looks like 2 or 3 spots that together form another spot with a brown spot in the middle. The cheetah is a predator that uses, although it also stalks, so it does use stealth to an extent, the cheetah uses its speed. That's its main method of hunting, is by running and chasing after its prey. Now, because of that, the cheetah is built like a long distance runner, and it's got a very slender build. It's a little bit taller on the legs, and it's actually got spots. So when people talk about a spotted cat, when they refer to the leopard, I guess it would be a more accurate description for the cheetah. The cheetah's also got a smaller head with a short face, and it's got these very dark teardrops that runs down from the eyes on either side of its muzzle. And because of that, cheetah generally, they look a little bit more slender. When they walk through a clearing like this, they're actually quite majestic. You see, they'll have a huge chest area for their large lungs, and they've got very strong chest muscles as well, with these thin legs, and their paws are slightly smaller. The leopard's got a very strong front limb, and because of that, it's got really large feet with strong claws. Another major difference between the two is the cheetah's claws are always out, except for its dew claw, which is a little claw that sits up on the edge of the front feet, and that is the only one that stays sharp. The rest of its claws are always semi-out, so they touch the ground when it's moving, and it's although it's sharper than a dog's claws, it's very similar to that of a dog. The leopard, on the other hand, sheaths its claws and protects it with flaps of skin on either side. So it only extends it once it needs to grasp something or grab something. From this particular area that we're moving now, it's a little bit higher up and it's open, so it's got a great view, and we were hoping that while driving here we might spot something in the distance, even if it was a herd of elephant or a herd of buffalo that stand out quite clearly against the backdrop at the moment. FG, if I'm understanding your question correctly, why are cheetahs not named like the other cats? I'm assuming you're referring to the other big cats, the Panthera genus, and that is because the cheetah is actually it is different from it doesn't belong to that family, and the reason for that, it's not able to roar like the other big cats that all fall within the Panthera genus. The tiger, the lion, the leopard, well, I'm so sorry. I think I misunderstood that question a little bit. The names for animals, we don't really name animals. They are wild animals, so the names we give them is basically just for purposes of communicating to other people on the reserve which animal we are looking at. But we tend to see leopards more regularly on Ngala specifically, and with the leopard, it's a animal that's on its own, and therefore it tends to be easier to name a specific animal. The lions, we generally talk about the pride, and all of these animals are named after areas where we usually first encounter them or areas that they are known to move in a lot. The cheetah, they basically just move through. A cheetah's got a very, very large area that it moves across, and in this particular part, whenever they do come through here, Ngala only forms a part of that particular area. Therefore, we don't really get the chance to get to know them that well. And we don't really know exactly where's areas that they get seen often. And because of that, it's a little bit more of an impersonal relationship, if you want to put it that way. So we don't really name them. We do refer to certain cheetahs that we see that we know is the same ones we've seen before within the area. We might refer to them just according to the group, or like a collective name for the group that we're seeing. If it's a mother with young ones, we might name the cheetah and the amount of cubs that's traveling with her. But otherwise, we don't name them individually. They also, we don't often get to see them for long periods of time, and therefore it's very difficult to put specific identification or names to a specific animal.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
Looking for any signs of life at the moment, to be honest. Everything is just hunkered down, I think. We've left those elephants and buffaloes, tried to move a tree off a road unsuccessfully. It was a big tree, so now we've taken a different route. We're actually heading towards where those lapwings have their eggs, to see how the eggs are doing this morning. See if they are, well, they're probably going to be sitting on those eggs, to be honest, because it is very cold. The wind is not dying down. But yeah, everything is hunkered down. We've hardly seen any animals on the move. Everything that we have seen has been in the thickets for the most part. But yeah, we're taking this road that we hardly ever drive, actually, as you can see. It's quite overgrown. It runs along a rocky ridge where we've seen before. Well, I saw my first leopard here at Pride Lands, just hoping that maybe something is hiding amongst the rocks as we get a bit further down this road. There's a little bit of a rocky section. Yeah, otherwise, just enjoying a day out. Every day in the bush is just an adventure, even if it's a tough day. Oh, and also I wanted to say thanks. I can't remember who it was, I think, but biosemiosis is the term for Derek. Yes, thank you, Derek. Appreciate it. Biosemiosis, the term for trees communicating with each other. That's very cool. Biosemiosis. It's a big word. Another one of my favorite bush words that's a big scientific word is bioturbation. I don't know if you've heard that word before. Bioturbation is turning the soil. So that's what termites do. They go underground, they bring the soil up to the surface, and the constant movement of the soil, bioturbation. Bioturbation, 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 bioturbation. I said it 5 times fast, Kirsty. What do I win? Oh, as you see now, there is another tree on the road here. I'd like also a crisp high five for saying it 5 times fast. So there's a tree down on the road here, as you can see. It's a very big knob thorn. Just going to go around it a bit. And here's the culprit of this tree being down on the road, or at least the evidence of the culprit. I'm going to show you this dung here. I don't know if you can see it from where you are there, Gert. But this is elephant dung. And how do I know that it's elephant dung? I'll actually bring it a bit closer to you, Gert, so you can see it a bit better. This one is an easier one. Luckily, there's not too much activity of insects at this time of the year, but you can see it's elephant dung because it's this reddish color. If it was rhino dung, it would usually have a grayish pallor, and there'd be just grasses. But if I open this one up just a little bit, you can see there's some sticky stuff in here. Some sticks and twigs. There's a stick there. See that there? That's a piece of a branch. Okay, so if it was a rhino dung, you would see it would mostly be pale color, because they don't have, the grasses that the rhinos eat don't have too much tannin, which gives it this orange color. Remember, leaves and branches and twigs, these all have tannin in them. It's one of the defense mechanisms that trees have to stop being overbrowsed. So that's how you know this is elephant dung. And if it was a black rhino, which does also eat twigs and leaves, it would also be this red color, but it would have lots of these twigs that have 45-degree angled cuts. It's very, very distinctive. When black rhinos feed on the branches, they clip them very neatly with this 45-degree cut, because that's their dentition that they have. I'm going to put this back down on the ground where I found it. Should there be any small insects that are living in there, we don't want them to be disturbed. We also tend not to break these things open because they dry out quite quickly. Tay Williamson, elephants react to thunder and lightning in different ways. I think if it's a very young elephant, it might be its first thunderstorm. So in a few months' time, we'll be in the summer, and it's going to be some thunderstorms. And the young elephants will probably freak out quite a lot. As elephants get older, I think they've probably dealt with many, many dozens of thunderstorms, even hundreds of thunderstorms in their life, and they probably don't like it, but they're used to it. But young elephants probably freak out quite a lot. I must say, I've never actually been with elephants during a thunderstorm before. It'd be quite an experience, I think. I've sat with lions before, watching them hunt in a thunderstorm, but never elephants. That's an interesting one. I mean, many animals don't like those loud noises, but if it's natural, they should probably be quite used to it. I wonder. Return trip, dung beetles hatch probably at the springtime, I would say, when the environment is becoming a bit more wet, warmer, more conducive to them. Just going to go around this tree. Very, very great turning circle on these Land Rovers. Better than a wagon, I suppose. Not so good as anything else. Maybe, yeah, about the springtime, I'd say you start seeing a lot more dung beetles. September, October, those first rains, the warm, moist weather. During that during the winter, all these dung beetles have buried themselves. If they're adults and they're still alive, they've gone and hidden in the leaf litter somewhere, and their grubs, obviously the eggs, have hatched underground, and they're just pupating underground, staying nice and warm. But yeah, around September, October, you start seeing more of these insects moving about. But even now, in some of these dung balls, you get 4 different types of dung beetles, right? I don't know if you know that. Not 4 species, but 4 broad categories. You've got ones that roll the balls away, which everyone always sees. Those are called telecoprids. They move the dung balls away. And you've got ones that live inside the dung balls, or inside the dung, like the elephant dung piles. Those are endocoprids. Then you've got ones that dig a hole directly under the dung. Those are called paracoprids. And then you've got ones that I think are the coolest. They're called the kleptocoprids. And those ones just steal the dung balls from other dung beetles. So they don't work hard, they work smart. But yeah, we try not to drive over any of these dung piles, because even now, although we don't see the dung beetles and other insects, there are almost certainly lots living inside these dung balls. So yeah, it's good to know life is out there.
Everyone, you will not believe it. Our internet went down just as Tandy got this diker. These screams. It was awful. It was a long kill, and a hyena raced into the scene, which meant Tandy here, a 14-year-old petite leopardess, hoisted this diker while it was still alive and held it in this tree the entire time using her neck and her jaws. She's exhausted. She's not even opened this carcass yet. She is absolutely exhausted. The hyena I did not recognize immediately. I'm so sorry, everyone. Trust the internet to go down at that exact same time. BK and I started crying, didn't we, BK? Wipe away those tears. But still, we're here. And the hyena chased him. No, it's definitely not still alive. This happened quite a while ago. It looks like it is because she's breathing on top of it, but it's not. If it was still alive, she would have her jaws around that neck. It was a really slow, painful death, which was very difficult to watch, but I'm just blown away at how powerful she is. I've got some videos on my phone. I'll share them to Instagram, but she held onto that diker as it was struggling in this tree. It's a dead knobthorn, I think, and it's not very sturdy. It's not a marula. It's not got a big thick branch for perching her bum. No, it's really not a great tree. It's the only one, though. Immediately, I can't actually believe it. As soon as the diker started squealing, the hyena was there. The hyena raced in, and she raced up the nearest tree, and unfortunately this was the only one. I'm actually looking around and none of them are that great, to be honest. I don't know if she's going to be able to stay in this tree though, with comfort, with ease. I think she wants to get down and get up another tree. I'm flabbergasted. I love that word. I've always wanted to say that live. Flabbergasted. See her panting heavy. She's not opened this carcass. This is a closed carcass. And basically she's just trying to recuperate her energy before opening it. That was a lot of energy. Not only did she hunt, then she hoisted a live diker, female diker, up a tree. What an impressive girl. Maternal instincts driving her. Now I think she's probably going to hang this, and I think she may go get the cub. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for this afternoon that we can get this cub. Doesn't look comfy at all. The hyena I didn't recognize. Now, my IDs on the male hyenas are slightly rusty, but I didn't recognize it. Well done, BK. I think this is a different one. It is, isn't it? Same one. Let's try and see if we can get an idea. This is a hyena that absolutely chased Tandy up the tree. I think this is a different one, BK. This is Heart. This is a completely different one from the hyena that chased her up the tree. The hyena that chased her up the tree had a really damaged right ear with tons of scarred. So this is Heart that's coming from the sighting on Gowrie, Main, but the hyena that actually chased her up the tree was not Heart. Vicky, you said it's Heart. Yeah, this one's definitely Heart, 100%. But the other one had a very damaged right ear. It's a completely different hyena. They're all coming, Tandy girl. But you knew that already, didn't you? You're in a tricky spot up there, but somehow you're going to manage. There's another hyena in the distance. Yep, there's two here. I think the other one walking off is the other hyena. There's two hyenas now. Safkat, you're asking where is the nearest tree? Now, we do have some vehicles around us, but I think BK can give you a little pan of our surroundings. It's not great. I don't see any sturdy marulas. There's quite a few knobthorns around. There's a few cluster leaves off in the distance. There's nothing sturdy with those big fat leopard branches. That's what we like to call them out here. She can manage up here though. There's a nice fork. She brought it down again, so she was chased up by a hyena. And then once the diker actually died, she brought it down again. I think she was going to try and relocate it to a better tree. And then another hyena just came out of nowhere. They heard the squeals. They're not following scent unless they're following her scent. But this is not an open diker yet. There's no blood. They were following the sound. They heard the squeals of the diker and immediately they knew a leopard is killing a diker. And they were here instantly. It was just incredible. Trust it to be terrible light today. Why is it cloudy? There's a few combretum around, glory bushes. Really, there's nothing substantial for Tandy's bottom. Are you leaving? Thanks, Sips.
You're welcome. I just want to another one.
Okay. Tandy was being very difficult walking through the drainage, so a lot of vehicles left, and then they also heard the screams, so they raced back. So, Ottoman, you're asking how long will the pesky hyenas hang around for? Forever, until they get a scrap of food. Tandy may accidentally drop it. That's what they're hoping for, and the laws of gravity will come into place, and the diker will swap jaws into the jaws of the hyenas. Once the carcass is open, it will attract more hyenas. I would imagine everybody's hungry. The Tandy's got to be very, very careful. She knows that though. She's an expert huntress. She knew immediately she heard that hyena. She heard it coming and there was vehicles in the area, but she knew a hyena was on its way. And up the tree she went faster than lightning. Well done, girl. I knew you were hungry. A slightly sad day for the diker though. It really wasn't. It wasn't a pleasant sighting. The diker was shaking and kicking and kicking, and Tandy held on. Okay, well, I'm not going anywhere. Hopefully the internet doesn't go anywhere, and hopefully Tandy takes a bite of that duiker soon.
Something else that's not going to go anywhere is this crowned lapwing, because we found the nest again just to make sure that our two little eggies are still there and our two little eggies are there. Can you spot them? Amazingly camouflaged. Just there in the center of your screen you can see those two little speckled eggs. Not the type that you'd get at Woolworths. The type that the lapwings have laid in the sand here. It's interesting. When we were driving up, we noticed the two lapwings are off feeding, running around in the grass. Surprised they're not sitting on the nest with this incredibly strong wind that's quite cold. I wonder how that is affecting the incubation of these eggs. Perhaps they're not as sensitive as we think they are. I know that the development is definitely slowed by cold temperatures, but whether it's halted completely, I'm not sure. But you can see even that lapwing has got its head tucked right in, its body fluffed up, even its legs are bent to try and keep some of the legs out of the wind, because they're also a small bird. Can't do too well in very cold temperatures. But I'm glad to see that when I first turned up here, because I saw the two lapwings moving about, nowhere near where the nest is, I thought, oh no, have they lost the eggs? Maybe in the wind, a jackal or something, but nope, still both there. It's nice to see that they are still there. Sad to see they're not sitting on them, but hey, it's all good.
So we decided to leave those lines as they seem to be getting nice and cozy and trying to keep out of the wind, and we decided to come into these open areas to look for any rhino, as we know that this is generally a good area for some white rhino. But we got in luck. We managed to find a side-striped jackal. Not an animal that we generally get to see too often, and they are also nocturnal. So if you do see them moving around, it is generally at night time, although they do like to come and lie in these open areas during the day. So I mentioned that this is a side-striped jackal, so we get two species in Southern Africa, the side-striped and the blackback. And the way I know that this is a side-striped jackal, if you have a very close look, you'll see pretty much from the elbow, front elbow of the jackal, all the way to the hip, you can see that whitish silver line. And that is why it is a side-striped jackal. And he's busy peering off at the impala off in the distance. Now he is, or it, I don't know whether it's a male or female. I don't know whether it's a male or female. It's a bit difficult to tell from here. But those impala are just far too big for it. That being said, during the lambing season, so as we get into summer and the impala start to drop their young, it is occasionally viewed that a pair of blackback or white or side-striped jackal may prey on a newborn impala. But generally what they would feed on is small rodents and birds, chicks. Interesting is that the side-striped jackal in winter actually eats more fruit than meat. So they are omnivores, they eat meat and fruit. And then as they go into summer, they will have... Liz, you are correct. They do look naughty indeed. They actually look a little bit like a Jack Russell to me, and we all know that Jack Russells are very naughty. Just a quick correction. In summer they eat more fruit, because obviously in summer is when we have our trees fruiting. So in summer they'll eat more fruit than meat, and then in winter, with the lack of fruit around, they eat almost entirely meat. And there he's up. You can see that distinctive stripe that I was talking about. Oops, something caught its attention. That's why I quickly turn around. They are animals that are generally quite skittish, because although they're omnivores, but as far as the predators go, they are one of the smallest that we get here, and that they could easily fall prey to one of the larger predators in the area. Now, I'm not sure what has spooked him. Don't know if he's heard something off in the distance. They are generally in pairs. This does look like an adult. So So maybe it's moving off to see where its partner is. We are going to lose him shortly as it moves into that long grass. But what a fantastic view. Not a animal we get to see very often, so I'm very excited to have seen him in this open area. Not what I was expecting, and I love finding the unexpected.
We've got a lovely herd of elephants here. They've been very patient. We had to go home and fix a few things and came back and they were all still standing here. And it's about 15 or 16 strong. Some little babies and some older ones. And everyone's very relaxed on this blustery morning. I think that's the big matriarch there with that kind of hump on her back, Theo. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting question. Warren Chief, I mean, they could definitely communicate. I'm pretty sure that you'll find that in some bizarre situations they've been placed together, you know, zoos and so forth, but, you know, they're not even the same genus. They're a totally different genus, so they're in the same family, but they're a different genus. So I guess it would be a little bit like us talking to chimpanzees or chimpanzees talking to gorillas. You know, there could be elements of communication, but I don't think the language would be the same. I don't think that their rumbles would mean anything to each other, if you know what I mean. I think they could probably pick up distress quite easily. They could probably pick up joy or greeting maybe, but I think that the complex rumbles that they make to each other would not be mutually intelligible between the species. They're not closely related. Well, I mean they are, but they're not very closely related. They're much more distantly related than we are, say, from chimps, I think. And they also don't occupy the same habitat, which means that they haven't over time learnt to communicate with each other. So I'm going to say largely no, I don't think they would be able to. There's nowhere where their natural distribution overlaps. They seem to be selecting a lot of the Piltiforum, weeping wattle. And it's obviously a relatively fertile area because they're all feeding around here and they've been here for a good half an hour now. See, I don't know if you can see that little one there. Yeah, that's the one. Also feeding on a Piltiforum or weeping wattle plant. And they're a lot more relaxed than that first herd we saw. I'm not really sure why that should be. I don't know, Cam Hopper. I'm assuming that elephants can breathe through their mouths, but maybe they can't. And if they can, I'm assuming that they do. That little one there is lying down. Look at that, this tiny little thing has decided to fold its legs underneath it. It's too tired to be awake right now. Oh gosh, that's really cute. It's unbelievably cute. Tiny little elephant. Like it's just had enough of the day already, enough of the foul weather, and it's it's going to settle in for a nice sleep where it's warm and pleasant. But still play a little bit with some grass while it can. And this is, of course, totally common when the rest of the herd is feeding and moving around. The youngsters who don't have to eat so much grass will often just have a rest.
She has still not opened this diker. She must be starving. She must be hungry. But she's exhausted. That took a lot of strength. I actually looked back at my photos that I'll be sharing later, and she manages to pick the entire diker up with her jaws and carry it in the air without with not dragging, is what I'm trying to say. It's an easier way to say it, Lauren. And I think she wants to relocate trees. But she just might not have that choice. Just going to make a decision. Dikers, well, the males at least weigh about 18 kilograms max, and the females are heavier. It's another mammalian species, just like hyena, where the females are bigger. And the females can come in up to 21 kilograms. So that's probably about 45 pounds, give or take. 21 kg in her mouth alone. We've got some sort of scavenging bird hovering right behind you. See that, BK? I think it's a vulture. Yes, came into frame. Okay, I'm gonna sit tight here and see what happens next.
These elephants are now starting to have a wonderful time playing with each other. There is a bit of mounting going on. That's just for play. It's wrestling. And a couple of bigger bruisers come through and interrupt the game. It's quite interesting also, I find, when you watch something like this, it's normally two of them having a play together, and this time there were three. And I always remember as a child, it was difficult to make things work when there were three friends together. One always tended to get left out a little bit, and that seems to be what's going on here. Well, there we go. Now they're all playing together. Third one has managed to muscle in on the action. And I think they're three different ages. Now, one is noticeably smaller than the other two. It is, so it's exactly like an elephant preschool, except a preschool where the kids are allowed to roughhouse each other. I imagine that if you happen to be unfortunate enough to run a preschool these days, you've probably got to be fairly careful, because you'll find yourself in a courtroom being sued if children manage to do this to each other. You imagine little Johnny coming home and saying, "Alan pushed me onto the ground and shoved my face into the ground, and then he jumped on my back." Alan would probably have to be sent for some kind of psychological evaluation to find out if he was a delinquent delinquent. Alan's parents would sue Johnny's parents. Johnny's parents would counter-sue. The school would be sued, shut down. And now we've got some stick playing. That definitely wouldn't be allowed at a human preschool. Wonderful. Isn't that great? They are. Mac and Weezer, whenever you're feeling slightly down, spending time with elephants will induce a smile, lift the spirits, just make you feel like everything's actually okay with the world. I'm thinking about trying to move a bit, but of course as soon as I move though, I just go behind the next tree. They are having a lovely game back there. Now guys, there's a really nice little clearing right in front of us here which will give Theo a perfect view of you. There's no need for you to fight behind a tree. Oh, it's so cute. That's just brilliant, isn't it? That's it, come into this little clearing. That's it. It's perfect. Here comes a bigger one. Tell them. And the greeting of the trunk in the mouth there, which would often be given to a slightly more dominant individual. Whenever I see that, I am reminded of the gratefulness or gratitude I feel that we don't have to greet each other, human beings, by putting our noses in other people's mouths. That's essentially what elephants do. It's really a distasteful way of saying hello. Helen, you say you think they've got smiles in their eyes. Yes, it certainly does look like that, I agree. I'll try and move now. Although, there's one now right on the road in front of us, so I'm not going to move just yet.
So finally, we have got the meerkats at last. My heart was starting to worry there a little bit. I was like, this is the latest that they've got up in the entire, 10 weeks, 11 weeks now, somewhere around there, that we've been watching them. And it's because of the super, super, super cold weather. So my heart is quite happy now. I was getting a little bit worried because Rebecca said they'd actually gone down here last night. But things happen out here, and it's not unknown that they can move burrows even after sunset. It is highly unusual that they do that, but it's not impossible. So, and just with the disruptions that have taken place over here, remember I mentioned there was a goshawk incident with these little guys a couple of days ago. None were taken, but certainly that goshawk will be trying. We know there was the wildcat incident, which was a little bit more tragic there. Yeah, so things do happen. So when David and I got you earlier, we're sitting and waiting. I was like, uh-oh, they might have moved. But anyway, so here they are. So I'm really, really, really pleased about that. And the 5 adults, still the 3 pups. So All's good. Yeah, so all's good so far. And I know we haven't seen them the past couple of days just because, we had lost track of them and that kind of stuff. But all's good, all's well. And they are back at the Far Burrows, which is this magnificent burrow system with such a beautiful big view, sweeping views of the Kalahari behind us here. So, yes, I'm very relieved. My heart was like skipping a beat there for a moment. I was thinking, no, please, not again, like all the way back to square one. But all's well that ends well. Another gorgeous day out here. Yeah. And it's warming up nicely. And it's this temperature, the ambient temperature itself is not so bad. It's just the breeze that drops it. Laurel says they forgot to set the alarms. No, Laurel, I think what's happened is they set the alarms and I think they just like reached out. You know when you do that, you like reach out, you like put it off and you go back to sleep. I think that's what they were doing. So, yeah, you little hooligans. Yeah, I see the little pups out here. Oh my word, this is the best though. I'm very relieved. I must say I was getting a little bit worried there. Oh, look how they're holding each other. Oh man, oh man. Yes. That's what everyone should be doing in the mornings. Eh? Everyone should be doing that. Yes, this is gorgeous. Yes, they're quicker. Oh, wow. They're watching, one's watching something way down behind me there. I can't see what it is, but we're going to keep our eyes open for those goshawks as well. I'm determined to find that nest for you. So let's see what happens over the coming days. Maybe we'll be lucky.
We are having the most amazing time with this herd. We've now got some much bigger individuals having a little bit of a box with each other. Because why wouldn't they? They're bored of eating. They've been forced to feed on their breakfast from about 4 o'clock this morning. And now they want a bit of playtime. So we had a preschool going on before. In fact, it's still going on behind a whole lot of bushes. And now we've got a kind of middle school, I suppose. About to go into high school, these guys. And there are the little ones. Preschool still in full flow. Looks like my nephew Jack could be part of that group. Thea doesn't know where to look because everywhere there are elephants having a go at each other. Very special. Especially as, you know, we went home, we unpacked, we thought we were done for the day, and then out we came, and what a sighting we've had. So special. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for your questions, for your comments, and your very kindly entertaining participation in our show. We'll see you this afternoon at 1500 hours. Until then, stay safe and happy wherever you happen to find yourself in the world.